The world was not what it used to be. Cities that once reached the clouds were now little more than broken skeletons of stone and steel. Trees and wild plants had claimed the streets, winding through the crumbled buildings like rivers of green. The sky was often gray, filled with dust and smoke from old fires that refused to die. Humanity had almost vanished. Only pockets of survivors wandered the lands, scavenging scraps of technology and knowledge from the old world. Elias Kane moved carefully over the rubble, his boots crunching against broken glass and rusted metal. He was lean and strong, with eyes sharp from years of survival. A scavenger by necessity, an explorer by instinct, he had learned to read the signs of the old world, where the ground might collapse, where raiders could be hiding, and where ancient treasures might lie. Today, Elias was following a rumor, whispered among wandering survivors, of a hidden bunker untouched by time. He climbed a collapsed highway overpass, using it as a bridge over a valley of ruins. Below him, the remnants of what had once been a city stretched like a scar on the earth. Smoke rose from fires that survivors still fought to keep alive, and in the distance, he could see the skeleton of a massive tower, jagged and broken, silhouetted against the gray sky. Elias paused and scanned the horizon. His instincts told him that this place was different. There was a silence that went beyond the usual desolation. No birds, no wind, just the quiet hum of the earth trying to reclaim itself. He adjusted the straps on his pack and moved forward, careful not to make a sound. Hours passed as he followed the clues in old maps and fragments of digital records scavenged from abandoned settlements. The entrance to the bunker was subtle, hidden beneath the roots of an enormous tree that had grown through what was once a parking garage. Elias knelt and brushed away the dirt and debris, revealing a metal hatch. It was intact, surprisingly strong, with strange symbols etched into the surface. His heart raced as he worked the hatch open. Inside was darkness, thick and heavy. He flicked a small lamp from his pack, the light cutting through the blackness. The air smelled of old metal and earth. He stepped inside carefully. The bunker stretched farther than he expected. Corridors lined with panels and doors disappeared into shadow. Elias' lamp flickered across old signs in a language he recognized from his studies of pre-collapse archives. Property of the United Earth Coalition, top secret. His pulse quickened. This was more than just a storage facility. This was a place built to protect something important. He moved deeper into the bunker, navigating corridors that seemed to twist unnaturally. Every so often, he found rooms filled with old supplies, still preserved. Caches of food, tools, and machines that hummed faintly with residual power. But it was the records that fascinated him most. Data drives, printed schematics, and old terminals gave glimpses of a past world, a world that had aimed for the stars. And one name appeared again and again, the Starcraft. According to the records, the Starcraft was humanity's last hope. Designed before the collapse, it was a ship capable of carrying the knowledge, technology, and spirit of humankind to distant worlds. Not just a ship for survival, it was a vessel meant to restart civilization. Elias felt a thrill of excitement and fear. Could this really exist? Could he really find it? Hours turned into days as he searched deeper into the bunker. The corridors grew narrower, older, and more intricate. He had to squeeze through tight passages, dodge old security systems that still sparked when touched, and climb down shafts that led to even darker chambers. Finally, he reached a door unlike any other, a massive, reinforced gateway. It had a faint glow emanating from the edges, as if it were aware someone had approached. Elias touched the door and felt a slight vibration under his fingertips. The symbols etched into the metal shimmered faintly. He realized this was no ordinary door. Taking a deep breath, he studied the control panel. It was old, yes, but functional. He solved the code using a mix of logic and the knowledge he had gathered from the bunker's records. The door responded with a deep hum, sliding open to reveal the Starcraft. It was larger than any ship he had ever imagined, sleek yet strong, its hull gleaming even in the dim light. It seemed almost alive, as if it had been waiting for someone worthy to arrive. Elia's breath caught. He could feel the power radiating from it, a quiet but overwhelming energy that promised both creation and destruction. He stepped closer, touching the cold metal. A panel lit up at his touch, and a soft voice spoke, gentle but commanding. "Greetings. I am Aurora, state your purpose." Elias froze. The ship's AI was active and it recognized him. He swallowed hard. I want to learn. I want to use your power to help humanity," he said, though he wasn't sure if the voice could understand emotions as humans did. "The power within me is immense," Aurora responded. "It can restore civilization or destroy what remains. Your heart, your choices, will determine which path you take." Elias felt a chill run down his spine. The responsibility was heavier than anything he had ever faced. One wrong move and the few survivors left on Earth could be wiped out. Yet the chance to rebuild, to give humanity a future, filled him with a fierce determination. Suddenly, the ground shook. Elias stumbled as dust fell from the ceiling. He realized he wasn't alone. Raiders, humans desperate enough to kill for anything of value, had found the bunker. He could hear their crude weapons clanging against the metal doors. They would see the Starcraft as a prize, not a tool. He had to move quickly. Elias ran through the corridors, leading the intruders into a maze of dead ends and collapsing passageways. He used his knowledge of the bunker to outmaneuver them, setting traps with old machinery and opening hidden doors to confuse them. His mind worked faster than ever, every survival skill honed over years of hardship now put to the test. Finally, he reached a secure chamber near the Starcraft. He sealed the entrance just as the raiders banged and shouted outside. Panting, bruised but alive, Elias turned back to the Starcraft. Aurora's voice was calm. "You have proven resourcefulness and courage. The next stage awaits, but beware, awakening me fully will reveal your presence to the world, and not all who see you will be friendly." Elias nodded, understanding the gravity of the warning. He had discovered the last Starcraft, the key to humanity's rebirth. But awakening it would not be simple, and danger was already closing in. The path ahead was filled with uncertainty, but he had made a choice. Humanity would have a chance to rise again, and he would be the one to lead it. As night fell outside, the bunker was silent once more. Elias sat near the Starcraft, studying its controls, planning his next move. The ruins of the world were vast, but for the first time in centuries, hope had a shape that gleamed under the flickering lights of the bunker, a shape that promised a new beginning. And somewhere beyond the ruins, eyes watched. Some curious, some dangerous, all aware that something incredible had been found. The Starcraft was awake in spirit, if not yet in power, and the world, broken as it was, would soon know that humanity's story was far from over. Elias Kane sat before the Starcraft, his fingers tracing the smooth, glowing panels. The ship seemed to hum softly beneath his touch, as if it were aware of him, measuring his intentions. Aurora's voice filled the chamber once again, calm and precise. "You have found me. Now you must prove your understanding of the world you wish to rebuild." Elias swallowed hard. He knew this was not a machine that could be forced into obedience. The Starcraft's intelligence was beyond anything surviving humans had seen. It wasn't just a ship, it was a guardian, a keeper of humanity's future. He studied the control panels, reading holographic instructions that floated in the air. The Starcraft was more than a transport. It contained the blueprints for energy systems, terraforming technology, knowledge banks of art, science, and human history. It was a seed for an entire civilization, but also a weapon. Misuse could obliterate the fragile remains of Earth. Elias activated a small module, feeling a surge of energy course through him. Systems within the Starcraft blinked to life. A holographic interface appeared, showing rotating models of Earth, Mars, and distant exoplanets. Aurora spoke again. The choice before you is immense. To restart civilization, you must learn, you must adapt, and you must choose wisely whom to trust. Elias nodded. He had spent his life surviving, scavenging, and studying, but this was beyond anything he had imagined. Still, his curiosity and determination pushed him forward. He began exploring the Starcraft systems, carefully studying the control panels and databases. Days passed, or maybe weeks. Time inside the bunker was strange, measured only by the cycles of light from the ship's panels. The Starcraft began teaching him. Simulations, holograms, and interactive lessons filled the chamber. Elias learned about energy production that could power entire continents. He studied agricultural methods that could restore barren lands. He read about human psychology and leadership, the mistakes of the past, and how civilizations could rise stronger than before. But Elias was not alone for long. The distant hum of engines and footsteps reached him. Raiders, scavengers who had tracked rumors of a powerful relic, had discovered the bunker. They were crude, desperate, and dangerous, but determined. Elias quickly realized that the Starcraft's awakening had sent a signal into the world, announcing its presence. Others would come. Some might wish to help, but most would want to seize the power for themselves. He had to be ready. He set traps in the corridors outside the Starcraft chamber, using old machinery and wiring. When the raiders arrived, they were met with falling debris, electrified floors, and false doors leading into dead ends. Elias moved silently, staying one step ahead. Despite their weapons, despite their numbers, they could not reach him. The ship systems gave him an edge, but he knew it could not protect him forever. "You are learning quickly," Aurora noted. "Resourcefulness is essential, but your moral choices will matter even more than your cunning." Elias frowned. "Moral choices?" "Yes," Aurora replied. "This ship holds the power to remake worlds, but who will you save? Who will decide the fate of millions? Are you prepared to carry that burden?" The weight of the question pressed down on Elias. He had seen humanity fail. He had seen greed, hatred, and ignorance destroy the world he now walked through. Could he rise above it? Could he make choices that truly served the greater good? Days turned into a rhythm of learning, planning, and defending. Elias practiced operating the Starcraft, testing its engines, navigation, and terraforming systems. Each time he succeeded, Aurora presented him with new simulations, more complex and morally challenging. One simulation showed a planet where he could save a small group of survivors at the expense of destroying resources needed for larger populations elsewhere. Another asked him to choose between immediate safety for humans and long-term environmental stability. Each choice taught him patience, empathy, and foresight. He realized that the Starcraft's power was not just technology, it was a test of human character. Only by demonstrating wisdom could he truly wield it. Meanwhile, the world outside stirred. Rumors of a Starcraft reached other survivors and factions. Some sought alliances, hoping to learn and help. Others were aggressive, determined to claim the ship for themselves. Elias knew that if he failed to act quickly, the fragile chance to restart civilization could be lost to violence and greed. One night, while studying navigation charts for distant worlds, the bunker trembled violently. The raiders had found another entry. This time they were smarter, better equipped. They breached one of the outer corridors, firing crude weapons and shouting commands. Elias could hear the sound of destruction as they tore through debris, closing in on him. He activated defensive systems within the Starcraft. Holographic walls, energy barriers, and automated traps slowed the intruders. Yet he knew the ship could not fight alone. It required his guidance, his decisions, his courage. Heart-pounding, he led the raiders through a gauntlet of corridors, guiding them into areas that collapsed or were electrified. One by one, they fell back, confused and exhausted. Finally, silence returned. Elias collapsed onto the floor, breathing heavily. His body was sore, his mind tired, but he felt a surge of determination. He had survived. He had protected the Starcraft, and he had learned more about himself and humanity in those moments than he had in a lifetime of scavenging. Aurora's voice spoke softly. "You have proven courage, intelligence, and moral reasoning. You are ready for the next stage, full activation. But be warned, awakening me fully will send signals across the planet. Those who seek power will come. Not all will be human. Some may be older, stranger observers, watching from afar." Elias stared at the holographic interface. Full activation meant unlocking the Starcraft's engines, terraforming systems, and knowledge banks completely. It meant showing the world that a human had claimed a power that could rival the mistakes of the past. It meant stepping into a role no single human had ever held. But he knew he could not turn back. The ruins of Earth were vast, the few survivors scattered and desperate. Civilization had to rise again. He could feel it in his bones. This was his purpose. He took a deep breath and initiated the sequence. Lights in the Starcraft flared, filling the bunker with energy. Holograms of planets, systems, and data spun around him. The ship's engines thrummed, a deep, resonant sound that shook the ground. Elias felt the power under his hands, a living energy waiting to be directed. Outside, the raiders and distant factions would soon know. The signal was already spreading, subtle but undeniable. The world was awakening to the possibility that humanity's story was not over. Elias knelt before the central console, placing his hand on the glowing interface. Aurora's voice echoed softly. "Remember, Elias Kane, the future is in your hands. Your choices will shape humanity's rebirth. Choose wisely, lead with courage, lead with heart." He nodded, a fire burning in his chest. For the first time, he truly felt the weight and the hope of being human. The Starcraft pulsed, alive and aware. The world outside was broken, yes, but soon it would see a spark of ingenuity, courage, and moral strength, a spark that could light the path to a new civilization. Elias rose, looking at the shimmering panels, the swirling holograms, the engines waiting to roar. He felt ready. The trials were only beginning and greater challenges awaited, but he was no longer just a survivor. He was the keeper of humanity's last hope, the first step in a journey that could restore the world. And somewhere beyond the stars, someone, or something, was watching, waiting to see what this human would do with the Starcraft. For the first time in centuries, hope was more than a dream. It was a reality. Elias Kane stood in the heart of the Starcraft, the hum of its engines vibrating through the floor beneath his feet. The bunker around him was quiet, yet he could feel the pulse of the ship as though it had a heartbeat. Aurora's voice echoed softly, almost like a whisper in his mind. "Elias Kane, you have awakened me. The next stage begins. You will face trials designed to test not only your skill but your judgment, your morality, and your courage." Elias swallowed. He had trained, learned, and survived, but nothing in the ruined world had prepared him for this. The Starcraft's trials were not just physical, they were mental, emotional, and ethical, and the outcome would shape the future of humanity. He activated the first simulation. The room around him dissolved into a virtual landscape. He found himself standing on a planet, barren and cracked, with a small group of survivors in sight. They were frightened, weak, and desperate. A holographic display appeared in front of him. "Choose how to allocate resources. Save this group or conserve resources for future populations." Elias hesitated. The instinct to save life was strong, but he also knew that if he overextended the Starcraft's resources, countless others could suffer. After a moment, he carefully balanced supplies, creating a solution that sustained the group while reserving enough for future populations. The simulation adjusted in response, showing the survivors thriving and sending signals to others in need. "Well done," Aurora said. "You have demonstrated foresight. Humanity requires both compassion and wisdom. One without the other leads to ruin. The next trial was physical. The Starcraft projected a zero-gravity training course, filled with obstacles, moving platforms, and unstable surfaces. Elias had to maneuver through it using the ship's interface and his own strength. A single mistake could send him crashing into simulated walls or deadly traps. He moved carefully, remembering lessons from his scavenger days. Always watch the pattern, anticipate movement, and trust instincts. He leaped, twisted, and balanced, sometimes barely catching himself. After hours of practice, he completed the course. His muscles ached, but the thrill of accomplishment filled him with pride. Adaptability is crucial, Aurora reminded him. Humanity survives by learning, adjusting, and persisting. The final trial was the most challenging. Elias was presented with a simulation of Earth itself, broken and chaotic. He saw factions fighting over dwindling resources, rogue AI systems threatening survivors, and natural disasters wreaking havoc. Then Aurora asked the question. You may restore humanity, but there are choices. Who do you save first? How do you rebuild? Will you give power to those who seek it responsibly or to those who might misuse it? Elias realized the weight of this moment. These decisions were not just about strategy. They were about morality, ethics, and the very soul of humanity. He thought of the survivors he had seen in the wastelands, their courage, resilience, and desire to live. He thought of the mistakes of the past, wars fueled by greed and fear, and the extinction that followed. After careful deliberation, he chose a path that balanced survival, fairness, and long-term stability. He allocated resources to rebuild communities in need, provided education and knowledge to leaders, and set up safeguards against misuse of power. The simulation responded with a cascade of light, showing cities rising, ecosystems healing, and humans working together rather than against each other. You have passed the trials, Aurora said. Your decisions show that humanity can rise again, stronger than before. But beware, trials are only the beginning. External threats now know of your presence. Some will seek to help, others to dominate. As Elias prepared to leave the simulation, alarms blared in the real world. The raiders who had attacked the bunker before were returning, this time with a larger force. They had discovered new entry points and brought advanced scavenged weapons. Elias realized the Starcraft's activation signal had drawn attention far beyond his expectations. He moved quickly, initiating defensive systems. Holographic barriers rose, corridors shifted, and traps activated. Yet he knew that technology alone could not ensure victory. He had to lead, to use strategy, cunning, and human intuition. The raiders arrived, shouting and firing, but Elias was ready. He led them through the bunker's maze, using hidden doors, collapsing tunnels, and electrified floors to slow them down. One by one, the intruders faltered, exhausted and confused. Elias' heart pounded, but he stayed focused, knowing that the Starcraft's power must not fall into the wrong hands. After the last of the raiders retreated, Elias paused to catch his breath. He had survived, but the threat was far from over. Word of the Starcraft would spread, and not all who approached would be human. Aurora spoke again, her tone serious. Elias, you have demonstrated resourcefulness, courage, and moral judgment, but the universe watches. Other civilizations, older and stranger than humanity, are aware. They will judge your actions and may interfere. Elias nodded, understanding that the trials of the Starcraft were not just about mastering technology. They were about preparing him for the responsibility of shaping the future. Humanity's rebirth was not guaranteed. Every choice, every action, every decision mattered. He spent the following days consolidating his knowledge, learning to operate the Starcraft at full capacity. He studied terraforming systems, energy production, and the archives of human history. He realized that the Starcraft could heal the Earth itself, restore ecosystems, and provide the foundation for a new civilization. Yet Elias also knew that power alone was not enough. He needed allies, humans he could trust to help rebuild. He reached out to the scattered factions of survivors, carefully negotiating alliances and offering guidance. Some accepted, recognizing the opportunity to create a better world. Others were skeptical, unwilling to relinquish control. But Elias remained patient, knowing that true leadership required time and understanding. One night, as he studied a map of the Earth, the Starcraft projected a vision of what could be. Cities rising from ruins, rivers flowing clean, forests thriving, and humans working together rather than fighting. He felt a surge of hope. The trials had tested him, shaped him, and prepared him. Now he was ready to act. Elias, Aurora said softly, you have passed the trials. You are ready to use the full power of the Starcraft. The choice now is yours. Begin on Earth, restoring what was lost, or reach for distant worlds, creating new civilizations from the ground up. Elias looked at the holographic Earth beneath him. The ruins of cities, the scars of war, and the resilience of the survivors all called to him. He knew what he had to do. Humanity's story had not ended, it had only paused, and he would be the one to turn the page. He initiated the Starcraft's activation sequence, feeling the ship respond like a living organism. Systems hummed, lights flared, and energy pulsed through the hull. The Starcraft's full power was now at his command. He could terraform lands, generate energy, restore ecosystems, and share knowledge with every human willing to listen. But with power came responsibility. Elias knew that not everyone would accept his vision. Some would resist. Some would challenge him. Some might even threaten the very future he sought to build. Yet he felt ready. He had learned the lessons of the trials, faced danger, and made choices guided by morality and reason. Lead wisely, Aurora said, and humanity will rise, fail, and the ruins will remain. The universe watches. Elias clenched his fists, feeling a mixture of fear and determination. The world outside was broken, yes, but it could be healed. The survivors would need guidance, protection, and inspiration, and he would give it. The Starcraft lifted from the bunker, its engines glowing, powerful enough to change the face of the planet. As it rose, Elias looked down at the world he knew, the ruins of the cities, the forests reclaiming concrete, and the rivers slowly cleaning themselves. This was his challenge. This was his opportunity, and he would not fail. Somewhere in the distance, other eyes were watching, curious, wary, and perhaps hostile. The universe had noticed that a human had awakened the Starcraft, a being capable of shaping the destiny of civilization itself. Elias Kane took a deep breath, feeling the hum of the ship beneath him. The trials were over. The real challenge, the task of rebuilding humanity, was only beginning. And for the first time in centuries, hope was more than a dream. It was a choice that he was ready to make. Elias Kane stood on the control deck of the Starcraft, watching the Earth below. The ruins stretched far and wide, scarred by centuries of wars, neglect, and natural disasters. But he no longer saw despair, he saw potential. Every broken building, every dried riverbed, every barren plain could be healed. Humanity could rise again. Elias, Aurora's voice filled the chamber, calm and commanding. The systems are ready. You may begin. He took a deep breath and activated the Starcraft's planetary reconstruction protocols. A soft hum filled the air, vibrating through his chest. Energy flowed from the Starcraft into the planet, reaching deep underground, into rivers, soil, and the very atmosphere. In cities long abandoned, broken walls and streets began to mend themselves. Water flowed clear again through polluted rivers. Forests sprouted where deserts had stretched for miles. From the Starcraft, holographic displays showed Elias the results in real time. Survivors in distant settlements, watching cautiously from their hideouts, began to notice changes. Crops flourished, energy flowed to their homes, and clean water became available. Messages and signals spread through long-dead communication networks, telling people that hope had returned. Elias smiled, but he knew the work had only begun. The Starcraft could heal the land, provide energy, and restore technology, but humanity itself had to choose to rebuild. He needed to inspire cooperation, understanding, and wisdom among the scattered survivors. He began sending messages to human settlements, inviting them to gather, learn, and work together. At first, many were skeptical, some even hostile. After centuries of distrust, humans had learned to rely only on themselves. But Elias persisted, speaking to them through holograms, data networks, and carefully sent envoys. He shared knowledge of sustainable agriculture, renewable energy, medicine, and education. One by one, communities began to respond. They sent representatives to central locations, where the Starcraft could coordinate reconstruction efforts. Elias taught them not just to survive, but to thrive. He emphasized ethics, cooperation, and the importance of learning from past mistakes. Yet challenges remained. Some factions resisted his guidance, believing that the Starcraft's power could be used for domination. Others were greedy, attempting to hoard resources for themselves. Elias faced these threats with patience, using negotiation, strategy, and occasionally the Starcraft's presence as a deterrent. Violence was unnecessary. The lesson was clear. Humanity could rise stronger without repeating the mistakes of the past. As the months passed, cities began to rebuild. Ruined buildings transformed into sustainable structures. Energy grids powered entire regions, using clean and unlimited resources provided by the Starcraft. Advanced medical facilities healed the sick and injured. Schools opened, teaching knowledge preserved by the ship. People once lost in despair found purpose, hope, and community. Elias spent long nights reviewing the progress, sometimes stepping outside to see the world firsthand. Forests grew around rebuilt cities, rivers sparkled, and the air was cleaner than it had been for centuries. Children played in streets once filled with rubble. Adults worked together, farming, building, and studying. The Starcraft had given humanity a second chance, but Elias had guided them to use it wisely. One evening, as he walked through a newly rebuilt city, Elias noticed a group of children gathered around a holographic display of the Starcraft. They asked him questions. Is it really ours now? Will it always help us? Elias knelt and smiled. It helps us because we help each other. That is the true power. The Starcraft gives us tools, but it is our choices that make civilization strong. The children nodded, understanding in their simple way, yet grasping the essence of what he meant. Elias felt hope swelling in his chest. Humanity was learning, growing, and rising. Meanwhile, far above the earth, Aurora monitored progress. Elias Kane, she said softly, the reconstruction is successful beyond initial expectations. You have guided humanity with wisdom and courage. Others, beyond your planet, are observing. They see that humans, despite past failures, can rise again. Elias looked at the holographic projection of distant observers, alien civilizations who had watched Earth for centuries. Some had been curious, some wary, but now they saw a species capable of morality, creativity, and resilience. A subtle sense of pride filled him. Humanity was no longer just surviving, it was proving itself worthy to exist among the stars. Not all was perfect. Elias knew that challenges would continue. Humans could still make mistakes, resources could fail, and factions might rebel. But now a framework existed, a civilization guided by ethics, knowledge, and cooperation. The Starcraft had provided the spark, humanity was providing the flame. Weeks turned into months and the world transformed. Deserts bloomed into farmlands, cities grew into thriving communities, and forests stretched across once barren lands. Trade routes reconnected settlements. Knowledge and ideas spread faster than ever before. Humanity was rebuilding itself stronger, wiser, and more united. Elias stood on a cliff, overlooking a valley where a newly rebuilt city sat beside a sparkling river. The Starcraft hovered silently above, a guardian and a symbol. People moved through the streets below, unaware of the full extent of the technology guiding them but feeling its impact. Children laughed, adults worked, and a sense of purpose filled the air. He knew this was just the beginning. The trials had prepared him, but the real test was ongoing, guiding humanity without controlling it, teaching without dominating, inspiring without forcing. Every day was a decision, every action a chance to shape the future. And yet, for the first time in centuries, Elias felt peace. Humanity had a second chance, and he had done everything in his power to ensure it would not be wasted. Aurora's voice broke the quiet. Elias, the Starcraft systems are fully integrated with Earth. Reconstruction is complete as planned. You have led humanity through its greatest trial. Elias nodded, his eyes on the horizon. Not just me, he said softly. Everyone below is leading too. We're all part of this. From the Starcraft, light spread across the sky, signaling to every corner of Earth. Survivors saw it and understood. Humanity had returned, united and stronger than ever. The ruins of the past no longer defined the future. Somewhere far away, other civilizations watched. They noted not just the technology but the character of humanity, their resilience, intelligence, and moral strength. And for the first time, they considered humans as equals, capable of rising among the stars. Elias took a deep breath, feeling the wind on his face. The Starcraft floated silently above, its glow reflecting in the rivers below. Humanity had begun its renaissance. The Earth, once broken and silent, now hummed with life, energy, and hope. He thought of the journey he had taken from scavenger to explorer to guardian of humanity's last hope. The trials, the dangers, the moral choices, all had led to this moment. He had faced fear, loneliness, and uncertainty, yet he had persevered. Now, as he looked at the thriving world below, Elias Kane understood something vital. Humanity's true power was not in machines, weapons, or technology. It was in its courage, its intelligence, its ability to learn from mistakes, and its determination to rise above challenges. And humanity had risen. The Starcraft's glow slowly dimmed, resting silently above the rebuilt Earth. Its mission continued, not just as a machine, but as a partner to the people it had helped guide. Elias knew it would always be a reminder of what humans could achieve when they worked together, made wise choices, and refused to give in to despair. Children ran through fields, families built homes, and communities shared knowledge. Humanity had learned a lesson older than any ruin, that even after collapse, even after centuries of darkness, it could rise again. And somewhere high above, among the stars, the universe watched. And for the first time, it witnessed a species not just surviving but thriving, because they had remembered what it truly meant to be human. Elias Kane stood on the cliff one last time, feeling the wind, feeling life, and feeling hope. The ruins of the old world were gone, replaced by green fields, flowing rivers, and thriving cities. The Starcraft hovered quietly, a silent guardian and symbol of humanity's renaissance. The journey had been long, dangerous, and uncertain. But now humanity had a future, and it shone brighter than the stars themselves. Elias smiled. The world was alive again. Humanity had risen, and this time there would be no turning back.